Today's video is not as light-hearted as the other ones. I know that we said we're going to do 52 weeks of self-improvement, but something has been occurring over the past 3 days in Slovenia that is at such a massive scale that I cannot not talk about it. Over the course of the last weekend, we've been hit by significant rain, significant downpour, and as a result of it, the majority of the country is in fact flooded. There are entire villages, towns that are completely underwater. Some are separated from the essentially civilization. There's no, internet connection. There's no phone lines. There's no traffic because the roads have been cut off. The bridges have collapsed. Luckily, where I live, our house, our neighborhood is completely unaffected, and luckily, my home, our house, is not affected by this, and it has been a difficult time to perhaps even understand or comprehend the scale of everything that's going on. I drove to work on Friday morning using the same intersection that just a couple of hours later was completely flooded and closed. I was utterly unaware of what was actually going on, because to me it just looked like, there's going to be a little bit more rain. I wasn't paying attention to the news, the media, the alerts, the messages, and it wasn't until later in the day that I opened up Instagram and checked out a couple of stories that I noticed that there were a lot of people that I know of whose livelihood has been destroyed overnight. Their houses flooded, their cars flushed away, their basements destroyed, their crop, their yield, everything that they worked so hard for disappearing overnight. In moments like these, I notice there is a problem. And this is a personal problem, and I'm speaking on my behalf and my behalf alone. Perhaps some of you out there have experienced a similar feeling. Perhaps some of you have the same reaction to a life when these things happen. I think there's two types of people in these situations, and one person jumps out there and starts immediately providing physical help for these people. And the other type of person, which is me, my archetype, I've spent the weekend completely isolated from life, essentially. And I didn't do this just because I literally had a lot of work to do. It wasn't because I don't care about these people. It's not because I'm a completely unemphatic person, but I do lack empathy. And I'm asking this question in hopes that some of you, perhaps somebody out there, will be able to provide me with a guide, a template, perhaps just a reflection of their own life and their own issue that was similar to this. But the issue that I suffer from is from prolonged periods of time that I spent isolated from real world. And this is a direct result of being a content creator, of being a Twitch streamer, of being a gaming addict. And when that happened, you become really disconnected with what's going on in the world. Now, truth be told, there's stuff that's constantly thrown in our face that we don't really care about and we really shouldn't care about. What the Kardashians are doing, what message the Barbie movie is trying to get across. These things aren't really important. They're not really relative, and they really shouldn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But frankly, after so many years of being in this industry, I realized that I had some issues when it comes to relating feelings of other people. It's when I personally went through a hard time, I felt like I had to share this, but what I was dealing with were mental issues. What I was dealing with was the top of the Maslow's pyramid. I've never been in a situation where the bottom of my Maslow's pyramid was broken, where I would be hungry, where I would be homeless, where I would be, in poverty, or going through famine, or going through some type of serious illness. These things luckily have not yet occurred to me, not in that extent. And so relating to other people going through it becomes a real hard time. And so moments like these, when I see, people whose entire village was just blown overnight, which is completely covered in water, and it's a shocker to see, I don't know how to relate to that. And by not knowing how to relate to it, I tend to evade myself by almost positioning myself on some sort of high ground, no pun intended, where you observe the tragedy that's going on around you, and instead of stepping down and helping, I feel like I try to fast forward time to what could possibly happen to me, and can I do something to evade it? Can I go live somewhere where the flooding won't occur? Can I go live somewhere where forest fires will not occur? Can I go somewhere where, perhaps the crisis of inflation or whatnot won't occur? And I would like to fix this about myself. This is a thing that I've self-reflected for quite a while now. And it's a thing that's perhaps ruined some qualities of my life because I don't care enough for a fellow human being, that in situations like these, I find myself disconnected from the reality that's going on around us. And perhaps this video is actually a bizarre cry for help during a crisis where everybody else is crying for help, where I'm trying to understand how it is that you deal with the tragedy that goes on around you and the sheer amount of content that on a daily basis you don't really care for. To elaborate, something tragic happened today for sure in New Delhi in India. Another event took place in Shanghai. Another thing occurred in Moscow, Russia, and there were 50 car accidents throughout America. And these are all things that by the end of the day, most people in the country won't care about, let alone people who live on the other side of the globe. This globalized connection has led us to sort of hierarch tragedies that occur, from the submarine that sank with those 4 rich bastards to this now, which is happening literally just a couple of kilometers away from where I live. These things, I feel like these things have created a disconnection in my own brain where I don't feel like I care for anything anymore. It's like there's, the boy who cried wolf, some type of similar effect I feel has taken place in my head over the course of creating content for some 8 or so years, where you're constantly on the internet, you're constantly aware of everything that's going on, but you don't really care for it. And now that it's happening at my doorstep and I'm looking at it, that the situation could be far worse. There could be significantly higher numbers of destroyed houses, there could be a higher rate of fatality, but it's still a tragedy nonetheless. And yet I feel like even though my uncle's basement is flooded, I cannot relate to it. There's this weird, self-centered, egotistical disconnection that I feel, and I'm trying to understand why. Why is it that I don't care when I think I should? Because it's humankind. Because it's a story that we're all weaving together. Because the whole purpose of these videos was to just perhaps showcase a significant portion of change in a man's life that other people can look at and aspire and relate to. And I said to myself, if I can save just one person from suicide, if I can help just one person through anxiety, if I can just make one person's life better and more wholesome, and help him out to a good book, help him out to some good advice, help him out to a different mindset, that would make my world. So yes, in a weird way, this video is in fact a cry for help, because I'm trying to riddle this whole conundrum and understand the complexity that goes on. Because I sense that I'm not the only person in the world that has issues relating to other people's feelings, emotions, hardships. And I want to help fight this inner battle by then further understanding what's really going on around us. So I ask politely for all of you who have perhaps experienced a similar process, or if you're currently feeling this, what was it? How is it? Like, any answer really will help, because I'm trying to crack the code to the inner mind and figure out how to bring just a little bit more empathy into my thick skull. Because I think it's not just for the benefit of myself, it's for the benefit of others. And like I said, if the whole purpose of this series is to create a beautiful journey and an upward grind of, really what it is, it's self-improvement, then I think it would be extremely foolish to go through 52 weeks and not spend at least 1 week thinking about the fellow human. Thank you, and good night.